In 2018, the Council of Economic Advisors found that over 500,000 Americans were homeless. And of those 500,000 Americans who were homeless, 8,500 of them were in Michigan. And that specific stat for Michigan comes from the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness. But what are we doing about the issue of homelessness? Are we just easing the situation these people are in and giving them short-term help? Or are we trying to end it and get them out? Because I remember that when I was in Key Club in high school, we were making plastic mats for the homeless, which I thought was a great idea. And I realized that we were helping them in the moment, but we weren't doing anything to get them out of being homeless. The mats were not something that was going to get them out of being a homeless person, which frustrated me. And so when we were doing this speech, I found the National Alliance to End Homelessness, whose goal is to not only help those who are homeless, but get them out of the situation that they're currently in and prevent homelessness across the board so it's no longer an issue in the United States. And so that just reminded me of back when I was high school, and they're addressing those frustrations that I had felt. So with that, today what we're going to be discussing is the severity of the issue at hand, which is homelessness in the United States. And then we're going to look at the National Alliance to End Homelessness and how they're addressing those issues. And then finally, we're going to look at the future of homelessness, along with that help of the National Alliance to End Homelessness. So the first issue, and the issue that I think that we all need to address, is that homeless people are often not given the aid that they need. And in addition, they aren't treated equally to other people in society. They fall far below others somehow. So for example, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention found that homeless people have a tendency to have more health issues. They may be suffering from things like addiction, things like tuberculosis or HIV. And what happens is that people, especially perhaps those who have an addiction as a homeless person, people get this negative mindset that homeless people deserve to be where they're at because they're choosing these poor decisions in their life, which is not true at all. And people don't know everyone's story, and society broadly paints all homeless people as these problems that we don't have the money or the effort or need to be fixed because they don't deserve to be fixed. And it's very frustrating that we don't treat other human beings as human beings. And even furthermore, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention found that some states even try and criminalize homelessness. Like, for example, some states will criminalize sleeping in public, but at the same time, they don't offer any aids for the homeless person to go somewhere else to sleep. And so it's frustrating because we don't know what else they expect these homeless people to do. And like I said, we're not giving them anything to help them, to get them out of their situation. We just keep on pushing them further back and telling them that they don't deserve to be part of society almost. And we're not growing as a society because of that. When we're leaving 500,000 Americans behind and telling them that they don't deserve to be with us because they make poor decisions. And that's very hard. That's horrible. And if you already don't believe me that you feel like this is not an issue that affects you, in Washtenaw County, they've reported that 273 people are homeless and that 2 of them are minors. And that's very difficult to deal with and think about. But then comes along the National Alliance to End Homelessness. And now we're moving on to the second part about who they are and how they're dealing with these issues that we've talked about above. They were created in 1983 by a concerned group of citizens who wanted to create a nonpartisan and nonprofit organization whose goal was to end and prevent homelessness. So some of their solutions to deal with the issues set above is that they will sometimes work in a more technical matter. They'll do research and data so they can find the most effective, efficient improvements that they can give to homeless people, because their focus is homeless people and that's it. And they want to do the most that they can for them, so they use research and data to do that. In addition, they work with the federal government and local partners for policies and funding. So for example, the National Alliance on Homelessness will work with the government about creating affordable housing, or they'll work with local partners and give them funding if they want to do some program for the homeless in their city. And finally, they also go on a smaller level, and the National Alliance on Homelessness will work with communities individually to implement aid. So for example, they give training on rapid rehousing. So essentially, the National Alliance to End Homelessness is this big group that can tackle with the government and work with them. They can also be more technical and do research and data, and they can also work on a smaller community base and help those. So they really have branched out and they work with a lot of people across the country. And if you're worried about your money, because this is a speech about convincing you to join my charity, you won't have to worry, because they are a very good charity organization, and almost 92% of their money they receive, it goes towards programs. So this really is not an organization that's about making rich people richer. It's really about helping the homeless. They use that money for the research, they use it to implement that aid that we discussed and working with the government. And they are one of the top rated charities by Charity Watch, Charity Navigator, and GuideStar. So they're very trusted by these people, and they work really hard. And like I said, what they do is really for the homeless. It's not anything for themselves at the end of the day. But if at the end of the day, what if people don't want to donate to the National Alliance to End Homelessness? If you think about it, if we don't try to end homelessness, it will spread. The next time the economy turns, which could be now, people lose jobs. People can't afford things as much anymore, and they can become homeless easily. Homelessness is just an issue that can affect anybody. And if we don't have certain protections, and if we don't have certain safety nets and help, more people could fall through the cracks. More people could become homeless. And then if we don't have any aid for those who are already homeless, we cannot expect them to be able to get out of it as quickly and easily as possible. So by donating to this charity, you're ensuring that we're ending homelessness, we're helping those who are already homeless, and we're going to get them out of that situation, but then we're also creating safety nets, so if something were to happen again, if there were, like I said, the economy were to suddenly turn and many people lost their jobs and became homeless, we would have the ability to help them and get them out of that situation as quickly as possible, especially when this has happened multiple times in the United States, throughout time. But overall, homelessness is a prominent issue in the United States. We've all come across it. We've all seen someone on the side of the road holding that sign. We've all felt a little bit guilty when we didn't give money, or we saw it and we read the sign and we felt bad. And because we all realize that anyone could be homeless. I could be homeless, anybody could. It's not something that only happens to bad people in life. It could be anybody. And I just really want to reiterate that we need to treat people as people at the end of the day. And as Katie Macbeth, a journalist at International Apology Digest, said, it's about time we stop shaming the poor and homeless and start helping them. And how do we do that? It can be as simply as donating. And that's what I'm asking for you guys to do today.